Welcome to Simple Conversations with ASG.
So tell me, who is Mitch Francis?
How long is this podcast?
Take as long as you need.
Okay. So the shorter version is I grew up in Denver, Colorado. So in doing that, of course, I'm a skier. I was actually a professional skier. I was on a Vail ski team. I taught skiing. I actually met my wife during a whiteout snowstorm in Colorado, and she was lost, and I found her, and she actually said to me, "Well, you saved me. I have to marry you." And it's working out. It's been over 40 years. So it's
There's a movie
go
script
look
about
for
this
lost
somewhere.
women so go look for lost women in the snow. I highly recommend that. And then I was a real estate major at the University of Colorado at a time where that major almost didn't exist at all. I was one of the first in the country. And I started out on a real estate career where I developed commercial real estate, and now I still own and manage commercial buildings all across the U.S. And during all that time, I also was involved in creating and being the CEO of publicly traded companies and private companies that were extremely successful, and it gave me extreme problem-solving skills, if you will. To be a successful business person, you're going to get roadblocks thrown in your way, every time literally at every step of the way. And if you can't figure out how to go over them, around them, through them, you're just not going to be successful. So you develop these skills. And what I found was that these same problem-solving skills really applied to addressing what I ultimately came to do is solving some of the biggest problems of our time that actually yielded very logical, doable solutions that our politicians and they're just not doing anything about. And it seems like we're screwed, at every time we turn around. And the answer is we're really not. There are solutions. There are doable solutions to virtually everything that we're facing. And, we need the politicians and the people to get behind it to solve these things.
What's annoying you this week, Mitch?
I kind of just touched on it. We're a little less than 2 weeks from the presidential election in the U.S., and it's reaching a fever pitch of party positioning. And I'm annoyed by it. The book I've written is nonpartisan for a reason. And what I'm seeing right now is that, the party politics. It's, I hate you if you're a Republican. I hate you if you're a Democrat. And these positions just serve to amplify our differences and exacerbate the hate and distrust of each other. They're not solving problems. They're not doing what we need them to do as government. So I'm angry. Yeah, it's you kind of hit me at a vulnerable time. Where we're watching everything that's just making people miserable about. Gosh, can't we just stop fighting each other and take care of business, that's it for me.
It's so funny seeing this pattern because out of all the American guests I've had on, I genuinely think only one has said that the politics and the presidential race wasn't annoying them that week.
Well, there you go.
It's constant, and I'm like, some people that I follow on Instagram and stuff are putting up posts today talking about voting and stuff like that, and they were like showing how many followers they were losing just by kind of supporting someone and things like that. And it's so insane to me that in America, politics really just creates a crack straight down the middle of the country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And, it goes even farther than that. There's some statistics coming out right now. This is hard to digest, but, each candidate is spending, upward of $1 billion on their campaigns. And one of them is approaching, toward 2 billion, and this is for a $400,000 a year job. So it's like, well, what's going on in the background here? Why are we spending so much money and time and energy and, spending the country's focus, on these campaigns, they turn out to be kind of campaigns of hate. And it's disconcerting for a lot of people that I'm around.
Do you think that it would have the same effects on American culture and society in America if the two candidates weren't so publicly known?
No, I think they become, publicly known pretty quickly. Whoever the candidate's been over, the last, 50 years, some of them came out of nowhere that the most of the American people really didn't know who they were, and then they have this machine, of marketing them, to the public about, here's who this person is, and here's how they're going to take care of you, and here's how they're going to cut your taxes and make your life perfect and solve all your problems, and of course not tell you how they're going to do that, but we're sold these candidates like a product. So we do find out who these people are, or at least their advertising persona, pretty quickly.
Right, let's get on to today's topic, which is problem solving, because you've got a book right now which this title's absolutely amazing. It's been killing me all week. Badass solutions for today's big ass problems. And I mean, could there be anything more fitting to the climate we're living in at the moment? But I put out in my newsletter, I literally put out on the newsletter the words problem solving, and then told people to reply. And one of the replies was absolutely phenomenal, but I wanted to phase it to you because the question got me thinking a lot. Is the number one problem in the world the fact that we keep creating more problems for ourselves out of nothing?
No, I don't feel that way. No, we have real problems. Some of them are self-induced. Like in the U.S. we have this ridiculous problem of overspending to the point that we've got a $35 trillion deficit. That's self-induced. So to that degree, your question is appropriate. But we keep evolving as a society. Where we evolve these problems that maybe we didn't quite realize were going to come at us, of homelessness and immigration and too many guns, and crime and where the crime is coming from and the gangs and, all these different things that kind of evolve in any society and suddenly kind of rear their head. Maybe it's not so sudden, but certainly evolved to where, they're the head of this problem, shows itself to be, quite dangerous. So, I don't think they go away by not talking about them. They don't go away by not addressing them because, they are here. We've got really big problems that need solving. It's, I think on the more positive note, I think people, who can hear some of these solutions, might get excited by some of them and say, I believe that. I believe this is going to take care of at least a problem that I care a lot about, like the rising ocean levels, something like that, where my solution for it is, really makes a lot of sense. So somebody can get involved in that and to really try to help, make this happen. Mahatma Gandhi had a fabulous saying that I think applies, right now, really importantly. He said, when the people lead, the leaders will follow. And I think that means we need to all get involved. These politicians aren't taking care of the problem. So we need to push them. We need to lead them. Here's where we want to go. Here's what we want to solve and how to do it. So, you represent us. Go, go take care of business here. So, I think that's a direction for us.
You mentioned the debt problem, and I do want to talk about this because the UK's got one as well. I think the UK's 2.8 trillion in debt, and it's projected to be way worse by the end of next year. But what is it with these countries? How are they getting in so much debt? Is there one thing in particular they're doing that's triggering maybe the domino effect of making that number just go skyrocket?
If you are enjoying this episode, follow and rate the show.
Well, the easy answer is they're overspending. If any of us did that with our own household finances, we'd be in deep trouble. So, if you spend more than you're bringing in, that's the recipe for hell, and it's not any different between our own personal finances and the country. It's just that, nobody's, making them declare bankruptcy, which is, probably where we're headed. The U.S., I can't speak as intelligently about the UK size of the problem, but the size of the US problem is $35 trillion in debt, and that's increasing by another $1 trillion every 100 days.
My God.
So we're just drowning in debt, and particularly the interest payments. The interest payments are $9 billion a day, and it's become the second largest expenditure of the federal government behind Social Security. So, yeah. So it's like, this, if this were your own personal finances, you'd be, running to a bankruptcy lawyer and get me the heck out of this hole I dug.
Trillion in debt.
And yeah. And, it gets into the weeds a bit, but I really have a very strong solution for getting rid of the entire U.S. debt immediately. And ensuring that it never happens again. And, and along with that, I guess the ensuring that it never happens again is once it's paid off, which I have that solution. But once it's paid off, we've got to put real serious controls again on the politicians that don't give them the ability to spend more than they bring in. And
such a simple concept you should have learned in school, isn't it?
Exactly. That's how you run your house, and that's how governments have to be run. They know how much they're bringing in on taxes every year. Well, you can't spend more than your income. And it's this, it does sound simplistic, honestly, but that's it, and, the U.S. deficit of $35 trillion, catch this, ASG, you're going to love this. The taxes that are brought in every year to the U.S. federal government are $7 trillion.
I'm getting goosebumps every time you say trillion.
Yeah. So
I don't think anyone understands how big that is.
Well, I have an interesting analogy to get help with that. I'll get that in a second. But so the U.S. deficit is 7 times bigger than the total amount of taxes that the U.S. government takes in every year. How do you get out of that?
How do you get into that?
Well, they spend much more with no end in sight than they're bringing in. So we need, in my view, in the U.S., we need a constitutional amendment that prohibits the federal government to deficit spend. They have to have a balanced budget every year, period. You cannot spend more than you're bringing in, period. And that if you want long-term survival of your country, you got to be doing this kind of thing. So, I want America to last. I want the UK to last, way into the future. And we've got to, have a course correction here to make that happen. Oh, let me give you this in case your audience hasn't heard it. It's kind of interesting. So, 1 million seconds pass in 11 days. a billion seconds pass in 32 years. And a trillion seconds is 32,000 years.
My God.
So it makes it a little more touchable about what is $1 trillion, and it's a big ass number, you know.
It's a crazy number. Thinking of how you
hard
would
to
even
get our arms around.
Thinking about how you would even start to recover that number, because it sounds insane, but I don't think people have ever seen it wrote down. If you Google the number 1 trillion, it is vile looking. It looks disgusting.
It's 12 zeros. 12 zeros.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So
it's a little more than what's in my checking account at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit more than I'm worth at the moment. I'll get there, but so you think that there should be blocks in place of the people who are overspending. They should be told, right, this, you creating this problem, and here's what now we're putting in place to stop you making this any worse.
I don't see a different possibility. You know, they get elected, and they know this. They get elected by promising, "Oh, we're going to give you this free. We're going to take care of this for you free." You know, and this is how they get there. You know, they want to, you know, take care of you like they're your mom, you know, and well, there's, you know, it costs money, and, you know, it sounds good. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. You'll do that for me if I elect you? Yeah, I'm in on that one. But, you know, something we have to wise up as citizens. You know, when they're promising you all this free stuff, you got to say, well, wait a minute. Where's that money coming from? How do we do that? And then they say, oh, well, we'll tax the rich because they're not paying their fair share. Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, tax somebody else, and then give it to me. That's a recipe for disaster, and, you know, on a lot of levels. And, you know, it goes back to, you know, the models of communism and socialism that didn't work. You know, the whole last century was a lab of different, you know, economic systems, and there was socialism and communism and capitalism, and capitalism clearly won. And honestly, you know, it wasn't until, you know, like specifically like China and Russia, it wasn't until they started adding capitalist features to their economies that they started being able to even feed their people. So we know what works. We know what doesn't work. And honestly, it's capitalism. You know, it's made the UK great. It's made the US great. And, you know, for other countries that embrace it and execute it properly, their people thrive. And that's what it's about. It's not about the country thriving. It's about the citizens thriving. And that's in my humble view. That's how you get there. You know, you get there by a risk and reward system. You work hard, you work smart, you're going to make money and succeed in that economy. But then, you know, that raises a whole other issue about, you know, there's a lot of people who don't make it in the economy, you know, who are homeless and, you know, and just, you know, suffering horribly. And, you know, I think for any great system, society, but did I lose you for a second?
No, you're still here. Your camera went, but you're here.
Okay, sorry. So for any great society, you know, we have to take care of people who need help, you know, who are suffering like this. And we can do that. You know, we can be a great society and you know, have capitalist direction, and also take care of people who need it. And you know, that's what's ultimately going to make us great. And we got to get there.
Yeah, so that's usually the big problem people have with why they sway to different candidates and stuff, is they keep talking about all this capitalism's dragging us down and stuff. So you have sussed a way where capitalism can work for the little guy as well in some way, but the problem that people are going to have with that, and the questions they're going to ask, is someone has to lose in that scenario, and who is it is what they're going to ask, because they're brought up in a time where they've been told capitalism is evil, and if you help the little guy, then the rich guy still wins anyway.
Oh, I don't believe that at all.
Neither do I, but that is the stereotype or myth around
Well,
these issues.
Listen, that's a sales pitch for socialism, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't believe that. I believe in explaining to people and showing people you can rise up regardless of your background. You can succeed. Let us make sure that you have the tools to succeed. Of education, critically important. That's our main, the main equalizer of opportunity for all of us is public education. And if public education sucks, we better damn well fix it, and fix it fast, because that's what's going to tear down a society. If you take away the opportunity, the equal opportunity for people to succeed, which starts with education, forget about it. It's just not going to work. But if you have the opportunity for people to educate themselves, to work hard, to be innovative, to be creative, they can succeed. And, all of us know hundreds, if not thousands of people who succeed out there. But at the same time, you can have people who just, go out and do their job every day. They don't have to be an innovator. They don't have to take risks, that they can go do their job, and their job should pay a living wage that lets people who, work hard and do their job and, do what they're supposed to be doing out in the world. They should have a nice life. And in capitalism, it's been the only system that actually historically has provided that nice life for the majority of people. You've got, you can show people, in Russia, 50 years ago, that's not very long ago, they had bread lines. There were images we got on our news all the time of empty grocery store shelves. I mean, nothing on those shelves, versus, we had, these supermarket basket fill up games, in our country now, people, run through the grocery store, filling up, their baskets, over brimming. And, people in Russia haven't seen that kind of, well, I would say opulence, but that kind of food availability, and they were angry. And who could blame them? They're angry. Their system wasn't bringing them the goods and services that they needed and that they were willing to work for. Everybody, I don't think they didn't want to work. I think they wanted to do their jobs and even have jobs. And that's another, feather in the cap of capitalism. It certainly creates more jobs and opportunities. So, I think that the governments and the economies, have to find that people who work, who do their part, have a living wage and can have a nice life for their families, with opportunities, to even go farther. What a nice thing.
I'm going to move on to the education aspect you mentioned, because I've been kind of, roaming around different corners of the internet this week trying to build conversation topics for this conversation. And one of the ones I followed along was on Facebook, but I didn't really understand how it's still going, but they were talking about how they don't have enough faith in public education, but they don't have enough resources to pursue private education. Do you think that is a big problem? And is that a little bit, concerning, the fact that we can't put faith in public education, which should be available to everybody?
Totally. That's my first chapter, HG. So,
a mind reader.
Yeah, maybe you are. So, like I said a moment ago, the founding fathers of the U.S. Thought again that the equal opportunity that had to be offered to all people in this country had its basis, had its foundation in public schools. That was the starting line for the race. And if everybody's on the same starting line, the country's going to work. It's going to make sense. Everybody has a fair chance. Well, now, as you just said, we've got private schools. And the people who are the wealthiest, who can afford to put their kids in private schools, and almost by definition, they also have the most political influence. Those people are completely taken out of the public school system. They don't give. Let me clean this up. They don't care about what happens in public schools because guess what? Their kids aren't there. So you have the wealthiest and the people with the most influence in our country completely out of the public school system, and their kids, that same starting line of the race. Guess what? Their kids are a mile down the road from kids who are in public schools. And let me tell you, there are good public schools. There are a lot of parents who put a lot of emphasis in their kids get education and do a fight to make the public schools as good as they can, and the kids work hard. There are people who really do succeed from public schools. But for the most part, kids who go to private schools are miles ahead in that race. And it's perpetuating, in my view, it's perpetuating this chasm, this Grand Canyon we have in our country, and it sounds like it's in yours, of the wealthy and the poor, the haves and the have-nots. And it's self-perpetuating. You remember that, in UK, they had a landed aristocracy. And the lords and royalty just continued because they had title. And I think this is tantamount to that. When you have a mechanism to put your children way ahead of everybody else because you can afford it, well, that's kind of a landed aristocracy in the U.S. So how do we fix this? And you mentioned well, you didn't put it in my words, but what's a badass solution? I literally believe that we should outlaw private schools. We have to put those people back, focusing on public schools for everyone, not just their little princes and princesses. Public schools have to be great for everybody, And let me tell you what you're going to start seeing if that would happen. You're going to start seeing equal opportunity for everybody, for every kid. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing for the people who have their kids in private school now, because it perpetuates our country. It perpetuates this system, as opposed to going to hell because there's so many poor people who can't make it and don't feel like they've got a chance, because you know what? To some degree, they don't. So you got to give them the same opportunities as your princes and princesses, or you're going to lose it all. And they're going to end up with nothing. You want the system to perpetuate. You want the U.S. to survive, and do that by making it possible for everybody to thrive. All right. Yeah. I can get off my soapbox now.
I do love that idea, though, of bringing the private schools into the public education, because public education is going to struggle for a long time because the resources and the right improvements to education are being put into private schools. And people are going to say, oh, no, it's because they're the elites and stuff like that. But it's because they're going to produce the revenue that would be required to make these changes. Because I was reading up on different tuition fees in America, and there's Monarch Academy kindergarten is $12,000 a year. Yeah. That is kindergarten. Never mind what their secondary school must be. Their secondary school must be close to $40,000. That's
it's
insane.
Yeah. There's a, they call it a college preparatory school, from, it's just grade school, all the way up to through high school. That's kind of close to where I live. And I was shocked to find that their tuition per year per student is $46,000.
My God.
What's the average salary? On the other side of the hill, sorry to interrupt you. On the other side of the hill is University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, one of the top schools, and tuition there is $12,000.
Oh my God!
So you're paying 4 times as much to send your kid to high school? Are you kidding me? So and let me tell you, I do know people who've gone there, and they do get a superb education. They do really thrive in college and university. And then, they're prepared to go out in the world and kick ass. So we need that for everybody.
Yeah, it is a thing, because I do know some people have went to private school in the UK, and I mean, they are, even at my age, they're still like years ahead in terms of intelligence, but it's never going to change, because why would they put resources into public education when private schools are making that kind of revenue? A kindergarten is costing 12,000 a year. That's one pupil.
So look, they can have the best facilities, they can have the best teachers, they can make it safe for the teachers and the students. They're just unreasonably better.
And that's where every teacher wants to work.
Why wouldn't they?
I can imagine their pay packet's lovely.
Yeah, again, it's just so obvious to me. Well, you got to take all that effort, all that interest, all that money, and put it into the public system for everyone. Simple, really. I mean, it seems so simplistic to me, but I've never heard it. I don't know anybody doing it. And let's, solve these problems. They're doable.
Yeah, I know. It's even, like you mentioned, UCLA. UCLA is an iconic college, but I read somewhere recently that their admissions has dropped a lot, and they're going to not as known colleges, but they cost more, so they assume that's where the elite knowledge is, and it's just so stupid. I mean, there could be a way to funnel this into smaller programs or into places that actually deserve it and need it, but I just don't think it's ever going to happen, because a private school's too luxurious and too lucrative to investors.
Yeah. Again, the public has to have the same opportunities.
So you've mentioned the jobs dynamic in the world, and it's got me kind of whizzing around a few different questions in my head. But you mentioned, obviously, at the beginning, whenever you start education, everybody's at the start line. It's a level playing field. At what point through adulthood do you think we're no longer on a level playing field in terms of jobs?
Oh, I think from day one. I really do. There are people who get recruited for, pretty major jobs for pretty major companies right out of college. They meet, they have these events to meet recruiters, for businesses, right in the universities. And the better the university, the higher your grades, the better you're prepared for a well-paying job. You can walk right out of university into a well-paying job, and if you're going to a city college and getting a much different level education, you don't have those opportunities. And that starts all the way from, like you said, from kindergarten, of a $12,000 kindergarten,
That's not
through
the start line.
to a kindergarten, that's basically there to wipe your kid's nose. So yeah, it's all the way through. It's from the very beginning, and got to fix this problem.
Do you think that should kind of be made not illegal but forbidden, that you can't apply for your jobs until you are actually graduated? Because I know some people that are studying and they're maybe 18 months away from graduating, and they've already got a job that they know they're going into. All they have to do basically is sign their name on the final paper, and they know where they're going. And it's always played in my mind, should that be gone, or is there a different system we can create to make that opportunity more equal?
Well, on the surface, I don't have a problem with that. They're obviously qualified and impressive enough to get a job offer. Good on them. so I don't really want. I'm not really into like punishing people, for being good at what they've gone through. I just want to make sure that everybody could get there if they're good enough.
So how do we get to that point?
Equal opportunities. Starting with education, and maybe it ends with education. There's not much else, that can make, somebody have an opportunity. I think our schools need to teach people, how to be successful in that given economy. In their schools, we don't teach, home finances. People get out of college, they don't know how to do a checkbook. They don't know about the stock market. They don't know about investing. They don't know about buying a home and what's involved in that. And these are things that, in my opinion, are incredibly lacking in the education of our populace, of, not just, academic criteria, but also what are you going to do when you get out of here? How are you going to run your household? How are you going to get enough money to buy a house? How are you going to save enough for your retirement? How are you going to make sure that your kids get a good education? All these kind of things, I think, need to be taught in our school systems. It's not a very, it's kind of a short distance second to, the main criteria. We have to have, excellent courses, criteria, curriculum for students, in math, in sciences, in geopolitics, educate our people, and at the same time, ready them, prepare them to be working. So many, certainly, not up to the high school level, but even so many colleges and universities really don't prepare their graduates to even go to work. They're not ready to go into a job the next day. Now, some are, based on what their major was, what they've learned, but so many, and I think the vast majority of people who graduate college, leave college and they're not ready to go do a job. They got to start, pretty much at the bottom. I don't have a problem with that, but they have no practical knowledge of how to do the job. And, I think our education system has to get there too.
So I have a hypothetical situation for this, and I want to see where you go with this. So I'm pretty stuck on the fence with this, but do you think it would work better to take a real assessment of the education system in terms of subjects and overhaul it, or take the existing subjects that are already being taught and redesign them to be more life applied?
I think it's both, really. I think you need, general knowledge, is what we get, in a lot of the schooling that we have. You're learning, certainly in a university level, you're getting algebra and calculus and, things that when you're there, you think, oh my God, I'm never going to use this kind of thing, but it exercises your brain. And this is going to sound like crap, but I use algebra constantly. In managing real estate and doing investments and, I use it all the time. So, things where I thought, oh, I'm there, this is ridiculous. What a waste of time this is. So we need education. I want to learn about history. I need to learn about, things that we even talked about today about, why didn't communism and socialism work in the last century? What's wrong with Russia right now? Russia's economy is 15 and a half times smaller than the U.S. It's catch this. Russia's economy is 25% smaller than Italy's. Shocking, right?
Yeah.
What they have is, a lot of land, a lot of oil, and they have nuclear weapons. but I need to be educated to understand these things as a citizen of the world, to have a conversation with people, to know the direction of my own country, to have opinions. I don't mean education just for education's sake, but when I vote, I want to know why I'm voting for, for capitalism versus socialism. Why? And a lot of people, certainly in the U.S., really have a lacking education in why capitalism has worked and why socialism really hasn't worked, and it's only worked in very few instances. So we need education. We need kind of a general education, and then we need practical education. So for how are you going to do the job that you're majoring in? If you're majoring in real estate, are you going to know anything about writing an offer? Are you going to know anything about analyzing the value of a property? On and on. You need this practical knowledge too to do your job. And if you're a liberal arts major in a university, well, what are you going to do when you graduate? What is that going to leave you with? And what's your life going to be from that starting point? So, I do think you're right. We need to refocus, how we're educating people, what and in what subjects, both for a good knowledge base of general knowledge and also more specifics to do their chosen vocation well.
Right, let's get to the real meat and potatoes of this conversation. The real issue that...
I mean, we didn't? Wait a minute, I got nothing left.
It's going to tell, well, you better have, because I'm thinking of, the whole time as we've been talking, I've been trying to process and think how to ask this question in the best way to get the best information from you, but I think this is the only way I'm going to be able to. Are we at the point, and if we're not, how close are we to calling an alert that we need to take emergency notice of how close we are to global warming?
Oh, we're there.
We are there already.
I think we're there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we should now be taking steps now to reduce.
Well, there's a couple different issues here. Yeah, we're there. We're at catastrophe level. Facing us, and can we stop the burning of fossil fuels tomorrow? Well, the answer is no. I mean, we just really can't, and it's not going to happen. So we can work, over the next 50 or 100 years to replace, that dirty energy with more clean energy, and we need to do that. There's no question. But then there's some other issues of, well, how do we take care of some of the effects of global warming? For example, like last summer was the hottest summer on Earth in recorded history globally. So, like you were saying, we're headed for a global socioeconomic catastrophe where the global warming is causing the polar ice caps to melt at a rate that would fill 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools every second. It's an amazing amount of water. By the end of this century, all coastal cities and islands are going to be flooded. And nobody's doing anything about this. Nothing. So I've actually come up with a way that we can stop the ocean levels from rising and actually at the same time use all that fresh water for the billions of people living in the most parched areas of our world. So there are solutions. We can, stop the effects of some of the global warming like this. there are major problems that I'm not sure how we're going to stop, changes of the climate, where we're having so many floods and hurricanes and rains and, all that kind of thing. But here I was able to find a really good solution for stopping the ocean levels from rising, that's going to affect hundreds of millions of people by the end of this century are going to be flooded. So can you imagine if the loss of even real estate value of all the coastlines of all countries in the world? Your countries, you might need a snorkel. So we've got to do this. We've got to do this right away. So yes, your question is very well taken. Yeah, we're at catastrophe level, and we damn well better start doing things about it. So we've got to start switching over from dirty fuels, and it's not going to be immediate, and not at all. It's really not. But where we can change or affect the results of climate change, like stopping the ocean levels from rising, we got to do that. We got to get there, because we can't. That's solvable.
I'm going to play devil's advocate, because the normal person hearing that is going to think, why would I make adjustments? Because in the grand scheme of things, one person isn't going to change everything. So can you explain a little bit how making smarter decisions about all these things like your fuel emissions and stuff could, in the grand scheme of things, majorly help if everybody gets on board?
Well, it's going to take everybody, and that's pretty frustrating. The biggest polluters in the world are China and India, and they're barely even looking at the problem. They have their coal energy factories all over their countries, just spewing this stuff out in the atmosphere for all of us. So you can think, well, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to buy an electric car as soon as as I can afford it. I'm going to do my part, and that's only a pretty small part of the problem, and it's going to take a huge concerted effort, because it's not just driving an electric car. Your power plant that gives your electricity to your house to charge your electric car, guess what? They're burning oil and gas and coal to make the electricity. So until those become, cleaner energy producers, it's not going to solve the problem just by getting getting a electric car. Having solar power, that's a great thing. A great thing you can do, and we're in throughout the world where we have enough sunshine. That should be a huge government position to help people get off the electrical grid and create their own power for their homes. So there's stuff we can all do, but it seems like we're helpless, because the biggest polluters aren't doing anything at all yet. So, until we find a way to leverage, China and India, and other countries into, replacing, their coal burning facilities and spewing it all into the air, we're all pretty screwed.
Yeah, it's going to take a global effort to reduce a global issue.
I think so.
Do you think so? That there is ways that those people with big influence could propose maybe adjustments on a global level that could maybe not, I wouldn't say speed up the process, but make it more desirable?
Well, that's been done, with the Paris Accords, for global warming, where all these countries signed on and agreed to, to cut down their own, part in pollution and all that. But, like I said, China and India aren't doing their part, and putting it all on, like everybody points a finger at the U.S. The U.S. has the biggest economy. U.S. is creating, more pollution per person, than anywhere else on the planet. But the U.S. is coming pretty far, pretty fast, certainly relative to other countries. So I think it's, until we get, like a Paris Treaty that really has teeth in it, that really is signed on to by, the major pollution producing countries, it's just not going to happen. So it's a bit defeatist, and I feel badly about that. That I don't have this magic wand and say, here's how you kick China's ass into stopping this level of pollution. But I think technology is probably our only hope. There's a major concerted effort in new technologies of different types of nuclear energy, of even fusion atomic energy, that where you could have, say, if that's ever solved, you're going to have safe energy that's cheap and inexhaustible for the world forever. So I think our hope, and I don't really like putting all my chips on this square, but I think our hope really is that this might get solved by creativity and innovation in the near future.
I have just one more problem that we need to talk about, and it won't be a quick one because it will be a quick one. Sorry, because just even having the knowledge of it in my head is creeping me out. But 50% of American households don't have $400 to cover an emergency expense.
Right.
How are people not realizing that and thinking that's a problem?
Oh, it's a huge problem.
It's
It's
massive.
a huge problem. And I think there's like no other statistic that you could point to say that the economy of the U.S. is not working for enough people. And, where you have, like you said, 50% of the people don't have $400 for an emergency in their account. And, and 3/4 of the people in the U.S. are living paycheck to paycheck. Well, it's not working the way it should. And why is that? And how do we fix that? And I think it has to do with, again, opportunities for a better life, and changing some of the things in the way we operate our country to make it easier and better for people to manage their money better. I don't put it on the fault on them. I really don't. But we have a really bad habit in this country that we're just like our government. We're spending more than we're bringing in, and we're living on credit cards. Credit card debt is $1 trillion. It's the highest it's ever been. So people are overspending. So it's everybody wants what they see on television all day long of the Kardashians. Where the big decision is whose jet are we going to take on vacation this week? Come on. So people are spending more than they should, more than they're making. And I certainly don't blame anybody and everybody for wanting a better life, wanting a better place to live, wanting a better car, better clothes for their children. Come on, that's absolutely critical. So we have to make sure that people are making a living wage in an honest job where people are doing their job, and that the living wage provides enough money for a good place to live, and health care, and food and medical for their family, and clothing. It's got to get there. It's got to be there, or we fail. We just fail.
I'm gonna need a nap after this podcast. My brain's been working overtime, but Mitch, it's fucking been incredible. Plug everything you want to plug, because I think that your views need to be seen by the public.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thanks, ASG. That's really, really nice. The book is called Badass Solutions. It's available on Amazon or I guess wherever they sell books. Easiest I think is Amazon. It's you just type in Badass Solutions with or without a hyphen between ass and solutions. You can put in my name, Mitch Francis. You can go to the website, which is Badass Solutions. It's that has a hyphen, bad-ass solutions.com. And see a little bit more of what's involved and where what we're addressing. And I would hope that in addition to to getting the book, that people latch on to something that resonates with them. Like you've told me several different topics that are near and dear to you. And I think if people would really try to get involved in making some of these solutions happen by telling other people, buying a book for somebody else, but talk to other people, write to your politicians who represent you and say, here's a solution for something I really believe in that we can get done. And, let's get badass politicians going. And then there are all kinds of nonprofit organizations to get involved in who need solutions, who need you. They need your mind and your hands to help. So there's a lot each one of us can do. And I hope that you get inspired to help. The world needs you.
Mitch, it's been a pleasure. It's been an absolute fucking incredible time for me, and I can't wait to have you on again. Hopefully we don't have as many problems to discuss, but something tells me we're going to have more.
Thanks, ASJ. I've really enjoyed this. You asked really provocative questions. Thank you.
Amazing. Have a great day, Mitch.
You too. Thanks so much.
Follow your new favorite interviewer with the link in the description.